Good Tuesday, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for August the 30th. Today we are reading in Zechariah chapter 10 and the Gospel of John chapter 14. Zechariah chapter 10 and John 14 are on the schedule for today. Let me go ahead and get our text up on the screen, and we will get to reading for today. Reading here in Zechariah chapter 10. Again, we're in this last section of Zechariah's writings that get a little bit more poetic in nature, not so much just speaking about events or narrative or anything of that nature, but you can kind of see the way the text is laid out on the screen that it is more poetic in nature. Chapter 9, we're introduced to the coming king and how he is coming. He is righteous and victorious, verse number 9 of chapter 9, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. So here is the king. Well, what is the king going to do? We're going to see that here within chapter 10. As the subheading says, he's going to restore his people. The Lord is going to restore his people, but the one through whom he is going to do so is going to be the king. And that is the subject of what's going on here in chapters 9 and 10. The king is on the way. Here we go, reading together in Zechariah chapter 10 in verse number 1. Zechariah chapter 10, verse number 1. Ask the Lord for rain in the season of spring rain. The Lord makes the rain clouds, and he will give them showers of rain and crops in the field for everyone. Of course, that's building off of chapter 9, and it's speaking of how lovely and beautiful the grain will make the young men flourish, and new wine the young women. Well, who's going to allow this to happen? Well, it is the Lord. The Lord is the one who makes grain be abundant, who allows the young men to flourish, who allows for the vine and the wine from it to be able to flourish so that the young women are blessed. The Lord does this. Now let's contrast that with what we see in verse number 2 concerning the idols, for the idols speak falsehood, and the diviners see illusions. They relate empty dreams and offer empty comfort. Therefore, the people wander like sheep. They suffer affliction because there is no shepherd, reminding us of previous writings in the prophets where the people, the leaders specifically, are rebuked for not shepherding the sheep as they ought to have shepherded them as the sheep, their flock to be concerned with. So they offer, going back up to verse number 2 again, for the idols speak falsehood, the diviners see illusions, they relate empty dreams, they offer empty comfort. Therefore, the people wander like sheep. They suffer affliction because there is no shepherd. My anger burns against the shepherds, so I will punish the leaders. For the Lord of armies has tended his flock in the house of Judah. He will make them like his majestic steed in battle. The cornerstone will come from Judah. The tent peg will come from them, and also the battle bow and every ruler. Together they will be like warriors in battle, trampling down the mud of the streets. They will fight because the Lord is with them, and they will put horsemen to shame. I will strengthen the house of Judah and deliver the house of Joseph. I will restore them because I have compassion on them, and they will be as though I have never rejected them. For I am the Lord their God, and I will answer them. Ephraim will be like a warrior, and their hearts will be glad as if with wine. Their children will see it and be glad. Their hearts will rejoice in the Lord. I will whistle and gather them because I have redeemed them. They will be as numerous as they once were. Though I sow them among nations, they will remember me in the distant lands. They and their children will live and return. I will bring them back from Egypt and gather them from Assyria. I will bring them to the land of Gilead and to Lebanon, but it will not be enough for them. The Lord will pass through the sea of distress and strike the waves of the sea. All the depths of the Nile will dry up. The pride of Assyria will be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt will come to an end. I will strengthen them in the Lord, and they will march in his name. This is the Lord's declaration. Zechariah chapter 10. Failing shepherds are preventing the people from experiencing the blessing that God desires for them to receive. So God is going to take matters into his own hands, and he is going to punish these leaders. And as he punishes the leaders, he's going to bring about people who are going to be able to get the job done. Think about this cornerstone, which to me, I'm as I was looking through the text, doing some marking, taking some notes, I noticed how let me see here, chapter 4, that I guess I read something different then. Never mind. Whenever I read cornerstone, if you're like me, immediately Jesus comes to mind. And I think that is the appropriate understanding here of verse number 4, that the cornerstone will come from Judah. I think this is a clear prophecy concerning Jesus coming from the tribe of Judah. And we can see that in Ephesians chapter 2, verse number 20. He is very explicitly described as the chief cornerstone in that text. And I think that therefore sets the scene for the rest of this text, in which this is all messianic in nature. Now, what I was reading earlier, something I do recall, was that in verse number 8, where it speaks of God whistling and gathering them because I redeemed them, they will be as numerous as they once were. I was reading just in the notes of my Bible, which again can be very good sometimes. Sometimes they could be not so good. I tend to think this is one of the not so good portions, because it says that there is no biblical evidence that this has been fulfilled yet, that God has not whistled and gathered together his people. And I would disagree with that. I think that this is clearly a sign of or something that is speaking to the gathering God's people together again under the Messiah, under the reign of Jesus as king in his church and in his kingdom. Of course, I think that this is those who wrote the notes that are in my study Bible are much more premillennial in nature. They believe that the kingdom is not yet what God wants it to be, and that what we're doing today is not the fulfillment of so much prophecy within the Old Testament. Again, I disagree with that. I think that so much of what is being written by the prophets, while it did have a short-term fulfillment that might have been tangible to those who were reading it and in their historical context, I think a lot of it is looking forward to what Jesus is going to accomplish and what he did accomplish and what we were being able to experience today. And yet there is still that aspect of it has already happened, but it is not yet in its complete fulfillment. And that will happen in the resurrection on the last day, whenever all the enemies are put under the feet of Jesus. Every enemy is made his footstool, death being the last one. So I would say that would be what is being referenced here. And as well, I will submit this to you, verse number 11, speaking of the Lord, him passing through the sea of distress, striking the waves of the sea, all the depths of the Nile will dry up, the pride of Assyria will be brought down, the scepter of Egypt will come to an end. There's some Exodus language there. And I think then if we really read well the gospel accounts, specifically in the Gospel of Mark, I think within Mark especially, there is so much Exodus language in Mark. And I think that is purposeful. That's to show that here comes the Messiah delivering his people just like Yahweh delivered his people back in the Exodus, and to show that this man, Jesus, has the same power of Yahweh, and that what he accomplished in bringing the people out of Egypt to bring them into the promised land and establish them as a great people is the same thing that Jesus is doing, bringing this people out of captivity, out of the captivity of sin, and establishing them in a great land and making them a great people, the church, his kingdom, his followers, his holy nation, as Peter would say later on. So I think this is what is being referenced here, that in the future, there is going to come this king, and he is going to establish this new people. He's going to establish a new Jerusalem, a new Israel. He's going to provide for them in mighty ways through mighty signs and mighty works. And he's going to be able to do things that the idols and the bad leaders were never able to do. All they ever did was cause the people of God to be ridiculed and to be punished and to suffer. But here comes Jesus, making something so much better for everyone within his people. I think that's what we're seeing here in chapters 9 and 10. And you would think that this would really make the people excited, that they would be thinking, man, this sounds great. Oh, we cannot wait to serve under this ruler. And yet what we're going to see in chapter 11 is that unfortunately, this great ruler seems as if he is going to be rejected. He's going to be rejected, and that is going to be certainly be a problem for the people of God as they're trying to embrace and enjoy the reality of this coming kingdom and the coming new Jerusalem. So we'll talk about that in chapter 11 tomorrow on Wednesday, the 31st, as we wrap up our readings in August. So that is Zechariah's text for today. We'll be in Zechariah chapter 11 tomorrow. But for today, to finish up our reading for today in our New Testament text, we're in the Gospel of John, chapter 14. In the Gospel of John, chapter 14. Again, we are quickly approaching the betrayal of Jesus. And in chapter 13, he spoke about that. He predicted that. He said, one of you will betray me in verse number 21. And eventually we're going to see that taking place here, not in 14, not in 15, not in 16 or 17, but it is in 18. In 18, we're going to see that take place. But between that, here in 14, 15, 16, and 17, 14, 15, 16, here in these four verses, we're going to see Jesus giving a lot of teaching, a lot of encouraging, Jesus making a number of promises to his disciples so that they could overcome in the day of distress that will be coming upon them very shortly. So here is the first of a good bit of encouragement, of teaching again, building them up, preparing them for what they're about to experience. Beginning here in chapter 14, verse number 1, don't let your heart be troubled. Very simple. That is a very clear and concise statement of encouragement. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Here's why. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. If not, I would have told you. I'm going away to prepare a place for you. If I go away and prepare a place for you, I come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. You know the way to where I am going. Lord, Thomas said, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you will also know my Father. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. So that's the answer. Where are you going? I'm going to the Father. That's where I'm going. I'm going to prepare so that you can be with the Father as well. But don't worry, you've seen the Father, and you've seen the Father because you've seen me. Lord, said Philip in verse number 8, show us the Father, and that's enough for us. Jesus said, I have been among you all this time, and you don't know me, Philip. The one who has seen me has seen the Father. There we go. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words I speak to you, I do not speak on my own. The Father who lives in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. Otherwise, believe because of the works themselves. We're talking about Jesus being the Son of God. Here's some very clear indication of his divinity, his divine nature within this section of 8 through 11. Verse number 12, truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and he will do even greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. Whatever you ask in my name, I will do it so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, you will keep my commands. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another counselor to be with you forever. He is the Spirit of truth. The world is unable to receive him because it doesn't see him or know him. But you do know him because he remains with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you will live too. On that day, you will know that I am in the Father. You are in me, and I am in you. The one who has my commands and keeps them is the one who loves me. And the one who loves me will be will be loved by my Father. I will also love him and will reveal myself to him. Judas, not Iscariot, so not the one that Jesus previously identified as the one who's going to betray him, said to him, Lord, How is it that you're going to reveal yourself to us and not to the world?" Jesus answered, "If anyone loves me, he will keep my word. My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. The one who doesn't love me will not keep my words. The word that you hear is not mine, but is from the Father who sent me. I have spoken these things to you while I remain with you. But the Counselor, the Holy Spirit, whom the Lord will send in my name, will teach you all things and remind you of everything I have told you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Don't let your heart be troubled or fearful. You have heard me tell you, I am going away and am coming to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice that I am going to the Father, because the Father is greater than I. I have told you now before it happens, so that when it does happen, you may believe. I will not talk with you much longer, because the ruler of the world is coming. He has no power over me. On the contrary, so that the world may know that I love the Father, I do as the Father commanded me. Get up, let's leave this place. And that concludes chapter 14 of the Gospel of John. Verse 27 there, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Again, the apostles are about to endure a very difficult period in their lives. They're about to see their great master, their great rabbi. They're about to see him betrayed. They're about to see him arrested. They're about to see him undergo a very much sham of a trial. They're going to see him endure things that surely they never imagined that he would endure, that he would have to suffer through. And yet, here he is telling them, be at peace, have peace. Everything's going to be okay. And they might be thinking, oh, you're crazy. Of course it's not going to be okay. You've been arrested. You've been betrayed. You're about to be killed. How is that okay? Well, it's going to be okay in 3 days after that, whenever he raises from the dead. And at that point, they're like, oh, this is why I should have been at peace. Simply because he told me to be at peace. And why wouldn't they be at peace? They had seen everything already up to this point that Jesus had performed. 7 signs in the Gospel of John, and however many more we can find in the rest of the Gospels, and how many more could not be contained within the Gospels. They had seen the signs. They had seen the teaching. They had experienced everything about Jesus as John describes in his shorter gospel, his shorter letters, 1 John. So for them, even though here in this moment they might have been struggling to be at peace, there would come a time whenever all the promises that Jesus was making would be fulfilled, and they would have that peace, and that peace would lead to courage and a willingness to stand strong for him even in difficult times. What about us whenever it comes to our peace? We are able to look back and see all the promises of Jesus having been fulfilled, save the fact that he's coming back again. And if we've seen all these things fulfilled, and if we've read all the incredible works of Jesus, all the things that he did, all the wise teachings he gave, and how he fulfilled all of his promises, if we've seen all of this, how can we not be at peace as well? Even whenever things might be very difficult for us for various reasons in our lives, we should be able to be at peace knowing that Jesus is with us, and that he is mediating for us. He is with us whenever we pray for the difficulties we are facing. And if nothing else, we know, and we should have great confidence to believe that in the future he's coming back again, and every struggle that we've ever faced in his name or for his sake, or just because we're living in a broken world, everything will be made better. So I hope that will give us peace today. I know there's some within our church family who are struggling with very, very serious things right now. We want to pray peace upon you, because we look at Jesus and we recognize him as the King of Peace. So I encourage all of us to pray for our brothers and sisters who are struggling today, pray for peace for them in their hearts and their minds, to put their hope, to take their hope and to firmly plant it even more firmly in Jesus and in his promises and in the blessings that he provides. He is our King of Peace, and he desires to give us peace, and we can have peace by trusting in him and in his promises. Thanks so much for tuning into this reading. Hope that you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Looking forward to reading with you again in the morning from Zechariah chapter 11 and John chapter 15. Zechariah 11 and John 15 are on the schedule for tomorrow. We will read that then. Take care and God bless.